We've been talking about meal planning and batch cooking a lot this series. Today's topic is going to cover food safety things like cooking temperatures and cross-contamination.
Welcome to ADHD, a channel dedicated to autism, ADHD and dissociative identity disorder.
Let's start with prepping food. Keep raw meat on the bottom shelf of the fridge so it can't drip onto other food. We have a fridge container just for the raw meat, so if it does leak, I only need to sterilise that one bin, and I don't have to worry that it's gotten down the side of the glass shelf into the crisper drawer below. It's much easier to clean up when you don't have to deconstruct your whole fridge just to disinfect it, and much less risky if you're dissociating and holding the heavy glass shelf. You will need a separate chopping board for raw meat and your vegetables. We have a red one, so it's really clear which one's for raw meat and we can't get it confused with the veggie board. Wash your hands before and after handling raw meat. When I cook meat for my husband, I try my best not to touch it at all. Never ever wash raw chicken as it spreads bacteria around the sink and surfaces. I have a different set of utensils for raw and cooked meat, and it helps if they look visibly different and avoids me needing to wash them in between. If you have any cuts, cover them with a blue plaster before prepping your food. Blue is important so that you can see it if it falls into the food. Skin coloured plasters can look really similar in colour to things like poultry and whole grains. To avoid cuts when chopping, we use a lot of gadgets to chop our vegetables, but if you don't have one of those, then use one hand to hold the thing you're chopping, point your fingernails down as if you're going to put them into the food, but not quite. That way, when you're cutting, the tips of your fingers are not exposed, and if you do miss with the knife, it's going to cut your nail. It's never a good idea to cut veg while dissociating, but sometimes it can start in the middle of doing the task, so we just have to do the best we can to try and be safe. And if you need to stop because you are dissociating too much, you can put the vegetables into a bowl of water to preserve it until later. Now on to cooking. There are various minimum recommended cooking temperatures. Poultry is 74°C or 165 Fahrenheit. Fish, beef, pork and lamb is a bit less at 62 to 63°C. And when we reheat leftovers, it again needs to be at least 74°C or 165 Fahrenheit. We just remember the higher of those numbers and apply it to everything because it's simpler to remember and it works for any foods, especially if you're making things where they're all mixed in together. When you are reheating or cooking, the temperature needs to be consistent all the way through the food, especially things like mince and sausages. So checking them with a meat thermometer or probe is the most accurate. Some foods need to be soaked before you cook them, such as rice. The way rice grows means that it can have a high arsenic content, so it's important that you soak it before cooking if you eat it a lot. If you're in a rush, then soak it in boiling water for 5 minutes and then rinse it with clean water. Always cook in fresh water, otherwise you're not removing the arsenic. We also soak our dried beans to make them easier to digest. You don't need to do this with canned beans as they're already partially cooked. Dried beans usually take between 8 to 12 hours to break down the gas-producing compounds, so we tend to just soak our rice and beans for 8 hours because it's easier to remember that one number. After we're done cooking, the danger zone for bacteria and food poisoning is between 8°C to 63°C, so if we need to cool down food to 8°C within 90 minutes after cooking. We use a fly tent that looks a bit like an umbrella made out of netting, and it stops flies getting onto the food without putting the lid on the container. We want all of that heat to escape as quickly and freely as possible, so don't put hot food in the fridge as it will affect the temperature of everything else in the fridge too. And once the food is cooled and put in the fridge, you can safely transfer it to the freezer. To clean up, you'll need to sanitize any surfaces that have come into contact with raw meat with bleach. This includes plastic chopping boards. It also includes anything touched after the raw meat, so handles, taps, etc. It's harder to sanitize wood, so you could try using distilled vinegar diluted, but I'd stick to a plastic board for meat. For your utensils like knives, you want to get them into hot soapy water as soon as possible. We don't actually like to leave our sharp knives in soapy water because the bubbles obscure them and we can totally forget they're in the sink. So if we cut meat, we are quite disciplined and we just wash them up straight away. If it was veggies, then we can just leave them on the wood board by the side of the sink, the knives, so that they're visible until they're back in their home. We store sharp knives pointed down in the drying rack or the dishwasher baskets. Some manufacturers advise against it as it can damage the tips, so laying them down pointed away from you might be another option to consider. These are the basic skills that you need to prepare, cook and store food safely. If you would be interested in seeing me use some of the gadgets I've mentioned to make cooking safer, then please subscribe and I can make those videos for you. I know when we first started to cook it was overwhelming, so I hope you're finding it helpful for me to break these things down for you. And as always, if there's anything that I haven't covered and you want to know, let me know below, and hopefully we can help each other out. Until next time, take care of yourselves.